My dad abandoned me, so I abandoned them back. The security guard at my office building knows me well enough to wave me through without checking my badge, but today he stops me with a concerned look. Hey Alex, there's some guy been waiting for you since 8 this morning. Says he's family. I told him he needed to make an appointment through reception, but he's pretty insistent. My coffee suddenly tastes like ash. It's 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in downtown Seattle, and I haven't seen my father in 16 years. I know it's him before I even turn toward the lobby seating area, because that's exactly the kind of boundary-crossing thing Richard Chen would do. He's wearing a wrinkled button-down that probably cost more than my monthly car payment 3 years ago, but now has that slightly desperate look of someone trying to maintain appearances on a shrinking budget. His hair has gone completely gray, and he's gained weight around his middle, but those are still the same dark eyes that looked right through me the morning he packed his Mercedes and drove away from our house in Bellevue. Alexandra. He stands up too quickly, nearly knocking over his visitor's chair. You've done well for yourself. I'm wearing a hoodie and jeans because I'm a software engineer at a startup, not because I'm trying to impress anyone, least of all him. It's Alex. And you're trespassing. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. His voice has that same smooth quality I remember, the one that used to convince Mom to let him take business trips that lasted weeks. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway. The security guard is watching us now, and I can see a few early arriving coworkers pretending not to stare from the elevator bank. This is exactly what I don't need, workplace drama involving family I've successfully avoided thinking about for the better part of 2 decades. Conference room B is empty, I tell him, swiping my badge. 5 minutes. He follows me through the glass doors of Cascade Solutions, past the ping-pong table and the wall of monitors displaying our latest deployment metrics. I can practically feel him calculating the worth of everything he sees, the Herman Miller chairs, the high-end espresso machine, the sweeping view of Elliott Bay through floor-to-ceiling windows. I close the conference room door and don't offer him a seat. Start talking. I know you inherited Margaret's estate last month. Your grandmother always said you were the smart one, the one who'd make something of yourself. He's nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot. 3.2 million, plus the properties. That's what I heard. And there it is. Not, I'm sorry I missed your high school graduation, or, I'm proud of what you've built here. Straight to my dead grandmother's money. Who told you that? Does it matter? Look, I know I wasn't. I wasn't the father you deserved. But I'm here now, and I'm hoping we can. You're hoping I'll write you a check. I cross my arms. What happened to the construction business? The big house in Tacoma you bought for wife number 2. His face flushes. The economy, the supply chain issues, it's been rough. And Sarah's medical bills, with the kids. Right. Sarah. The woman he left us for. The one who was 26 to his 42 when he walked out on his actual children to start over with someone who looked at him like he was worth something. How much do you need? I ask, because I want to hear him say it. The relief that washes over his face when I ask about the amount is almost pathetic. He thinks he's got me. 200,000 would get us back on our feet. Sarah's got lupus, and the treatments aren't fully covered by insurance. And the twins are starting high school next year. Good schools are expensive, you know how it is. The twins. Half-siblings I've never met, who exist because my father decided his existing family wasn't worth the effort. They'd be 14 now. The same age I was when I stopped waiting for him to call on my birthday. You know how it is, I repeat slowly. Actually, I don't. I went to Bellevue High. Public school. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep us in the same district after you left so Michael and I wouldn't have to switch schools mid-year. Alex, please. I know I made mistakes. Mistakes. I laugh, and it comes out sharper than I intended. Is that what we're calling it? My phone buzzes with a Slack message from Jake, my project manager, probably wondering where I am for our 10 a.m. stand-up. Through the conference room's glass walls, I can see the normal morning rhythm of my actual life, my coworkers grabbing coffee, settling in at their desks, solving problems that matter. This conversation feels like stepping into someone else's nightmare. I never stopped thinking about you and Michael, he says, and his voice cracks just enough to sound genuine. But your mother made it clear I wasn't welcome. She changed her number, moved apartments. We moved because you stopped paying child support 3 months after you left. The words come out flat, factual. We moved because Mom couldn't afford the house anymore. We moved because she had to declare bankruptcy when you defaulted on the joint credit cards. He at least has the decency to look uncomfortable. I was starting over. The business was just getting off the ground, and Sarah was pregnant with complications. I couldn't. You couldn't be bothered to send a Christmas card. I pull out my phone and start scrolling. Actually, that's not true. You did send cards. To your new kids. I know because Sarah posts everything on Facebook. Dad of the Year mug from 2018. Disneyland vacation photos from 2019. You coached their Little League team. The blood drains from his face as he realizes I've been watching. Of course I've been watching. You don't just stop wondering about the parent who vanished, especially when social media makes it so easy to peer through the windows of the life they chose instead of you. Look at us now, though, he says, attempting to regroup. You're incredibly successful. You don't need anything from me anymore. But I'm asking, as your father, for help. Family helps family, right? Family helps family. I think about Mom working doubles at the medical billing company and weekend shifts at Target. I think about Michael dropping out of college because we couldn't afford it, even with grants. I think about the apartment with the broken heater where we spent the winter of 2011 wearing coats indoors because Mom had to choose between the heating bill and groceries. You're right, I say finally. Family does help family. His shoulders relax, and I can see him already mentally spending my inheritance. Which is why I'm not giving you a fucking dime. The silence that follows is so complete I can hear the hum of the building's HVAC system. Outside the conference room, normal people are having normal Tuesday meetings about quarterly projections and sprint planning. His face cycles through confusion, anger, and finally something that looks almost like respect. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. You want to talk about family? Let me tell you what family actually did while you were playing house with Sarah. I lean against the conference table, feeling steadier now that I finally said it out loud. Mom had a heart attack when I was 22. Stress-induced, the doctor said. You know what causes that kind of stress? Working 70-hour weeks for 8 years to keep your kids fed after their father decides to disappear. I didn't know about. Because you never asked. Michael tried to reach you. Did you know that? He called your office in 2015 when Mom was in the ICU. Your secretary said you were at some family vacation in Cabo. With your real family, I guess. The words hang in the air like smoke. Through the glass wall, I can see Jake looking toward our conference room with increasing concern. I hold up one finger, almost done. That's not fair, Richard says, but his voice has lost its confidence. You don't understand the position I was in. Starting over at 43 isn't easy. Sarah needed me, the business needed everything I had. Sarah needed you. I pull up Facebook on my phone, swipe to a photo from last Christmas. Is that why you bought her the Lexus? Because she needed it? Or was it because you needed to prove you weren't the kind of man who abandons his family? He stares at the phone screen showing his wife and teenage twins posed next to a gleaming white SUV, all of them wearing matching red sweaters. The caption reads, blessed beyond measure. My amazing husband surprised me early Christmas tree red heart hashtag blessed hashtag best husband ever hashtag Christmas miracle. How long have you been watching us? Long enough. I screenshot the photo and airdrop it to my laptop. Long enough to know you took the twins to Europe last summer. Long enough to know you bought a boat. Long enough to know that the struggling business paid for a kitchen remodel that Sarah documented in about 40 Instagram stories. His mouth opens and closes like he's trying to catch his breath. We had a good quarter, and Sarah had been asking. You had a good quarter, but you need $200,000 from the daughter you haven't spoken to in 16 years. I stand up, suddenly exhausted by the sheer predictability of it all. Let me guess how this works. You heard about Grandma Margaret's will through the family gossip network, probably Aunt Linda, she never could keep her mouth shut. You realized your abandoned daughter just became worth more to you than your guilty conscience, so you figured you'd drive over here and what? Appeal to my sense of family loyalty. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Richard? He flinches when I use his first name instead of Dad, which is exactly what I intended. Some words have to be earned. I made mistakes. I know that. But I'm trying to do better now, and I thought. I hoped you might be willing to help me be better. You want to be better? Pay Mom back the child support you owe. 18 months at $400 a month, plus interest. That's what better looks like. I don't have that kind of money right now. That's why I'm here. You have boat money, but not child support money. You have European vacation money, but not make sure my kids don't lose their house money. I gather my laptop and head for the door. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my office, you're going to leave my city, and you're going to pretend this conversation never happened. Alexandra, wait. And if I see you here again, if you contact me again, if you so much as drive past this building, I will make sure everyone in your perfect new life knows exactly what kind of man you really are. The threat surprises both of us. I hadn't planned to say it, but now that it's out there, it feels right. Powerful, even. He doesn't leave. Instead, Richard sits back down in the conference room chair and pulls out his own phone. You know what? I've been trying to be nice here, but maybe we need to have a different kind of conversation. The shift in his tone makes my stomach drop. This is the voice I remember from the fights with Mom, cold, calculating, designed to cut deep. Sarah looked you up online after I told her I was coming here. Cascade Solutions is having some interesting financial discussions with their investors, aren't they? Something about a potential acquisition falling through. He scrolls through his screen with deliberate slowness. Be a shame if your colleagues knew their star developer inherited millions while they're all worried about layoffs. I feel the blood drain from my face. The Meridian deal collapsed last week, and yeah, everyone's on edge about job security. But how the hell does he know about that? Sarah's brother works in venture capital. Funny how small the Seattle tech world really is. He shows me a LinkedIn profile, David Chen, managing partner at Cascade Ventures. Different last name, but the family resemblance is unmistakable. We had dinner with him and his wife last month. Lovely couple. He mentioned the Meridian situation was unfortunate for everyone involved. My hands start to shake. David Chen has been to our office. He sits on our advisory board. If Richard has been feeding information to Sarah's family about my workplace, about the acquisition talks that were supposed to be confidential. What do you want? What I've always wanted. A relationship with my daughter. And maybe some understanding about how difficult it's been for me to rebuild my life after your mother made it impossible for me to maintain a relationship with you kids. That's not what happened. Isn't it? Sarah saved all the letters I wrote to you and Michael. All the birthday cards that got returned, address unknown. Your mother moved 4 times in 2 years without giving me a forwarding address. How was I supposed to? Bullshit. But even as I say it, something cold is settling in my chest. Mom did move us a lot those first few years. Different apartments, different neighborhoods. She said it was about finding cheaper rent, but I have documentation, Alexandra. Years of it. Child support payments that got returned because the accounts were closed. Calls to disconnected numbers. I hired a private investigator in 2012 just to find out where you were living. He pulls up what looks like an email thread on his phone. I know about your college graduation. I was there, in the back row. You probably didn't see me, but I saw you walk across that stage. Computer science, magna cum laude. I was so proud. The world tilts sideways. You were not there. Blue dress. You almost tripped on the steps going up to get your diploma because those heels were too high. Your mother was in the 3rd row, crying. Michael brought flowers, white roses. The details are too specific, too accurate. I remember those shoes, remember stumbling slightly on the stage stairs. Remember looking out at the crowd and feeling this weird, hollow sensation like someone was watching me. Why didn't you say anything? If you were really there, why didn't you? Because your mother had a restraining order against me. His voice goes quiet. Did she never tell you that? Harassment charges filed in 2010. I wasn't legally allowed to contact you or Michael directly until you turned 18. The conference room feels like it's shrinking. Through the glass walls, I can see my coworkers going about their normal day, completely unaware that my entire understanding of the last 16 years is currently imploding. She never said anything about a restraining order. Of course she didn't. It was easier to let you think I just didn't care. He leans forward, and for the first time today, he looks genuinely sad instead of calculating. I made mistakes, Alexandra. Huge ones. Leaving the way I did, not fighting harder in the beginning. But I never stopped trying to find a way back to you. My phone buzzes with another message from Jake. Then another. The 10 a.m. stand-up started 15 minutes ago, and I'm apparently having a complete emotional breakdown in conference room B while my father, who may or may not have been lying about abandoning us, sits across from me holding what might be proof that everything I believed about my childhood is wrong. I need to see those letters, I hear myself saying. The ones that got returned. I need to see all of it. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a manila folder that looks like it's been handled 1,000 times. The edges are worn soft, and I can see photocopies and printed emails sticking out at odd angles. I brought copies, he says, sliding the folder across the conference table. I hoped. I thought maybe if you could see the timeline, you'd understand. My hands are shaking as I open it. The first document is a bank statement from Wells Fargo, dated September 2008, 3 months after he left. There's a highlighted entry, child support payment, returned, account closed. $400, just like I told him Mom should have gotten. The next page is a copy of a birthday card. Happy 13th birthday, Alexandra, in his handwriting, with a $50 check paper clipped to it. There's a yellow sticky note in different handwriting, Sarah's, I assume, that says, returned by post office October 23, 08. I flipped through more pages. Christmas cards. School photos that he somehow obtained, probably from Grandma Margaret before she cut him off too. A printed MapQuest directions page to Bellevue High School, dated June 2012, with Alexandra graduation, 2 p.m. written in the margin. This doesn't prove anything, I say, but my voice sounds hollow even to me. You could have made all this up. Look at the postmarks. Look at the bank routing numbers. Call Wells Fargo if you want, those transaction records still exist. He pulls out his phone again. And I have something else. He opens what looks like a voice recording app. I started making these in 2015, after your mom's heart attack. Michael called my office, just like you said. But by the time I got the message and called the hospital back, she was already in recovery and had left strict instructions not to let me visit. He hits play, and I hear his voice, younger and more strained than it sounds now, day 247. I drove to Swedish Medical Center today, but they wouldn't let me pass the lobby. The woman at the front desk said Elena specifically requested that I not be allowed up to her floor. I sat in the parking garage for 2 hours, just hoping maybe I'd see Michael or Alex coming or going. I know it's pathetic. Sarah says I should just let go, that they've made their choice, but how do you let go of your kids? My throat feels like someone's squeezing it. Stop. But he doesn't stop. He scrolls to another recording, from 2017, Alex got promoted to senior developer at that startup. I found out through Margaret before she stopped talking to me. I wanted to send flowers to her office, maybe a congratulations card, but my lawyer says any contact could be seen as violating the harassment order, even though she's been an adult for years. I'm so proud of her, and I can't even tell her that. Stop. I close the folder and push it back toward him. Just stop. Through the conference room glass, I can see Jake walking toward us with 2 cups of coffee and a concerned expression. I hold up my hand to warn him off, but he's already seen too much, me crying, the older man across from me, the scattered papers between us. Richard follows my gaze. Is that your boss? Project manager. I wipe my eyes on my hoodie sleeve. And you need to leave. Now. Alexandra, please. I know this is a lot to process. It's too much. I stand up so fast my chair rolls backward into the wall. 16 years, Richard. 16 years of believing you just disappeared because we weren't worth the effort. And now you show up here with a folder full of receipts and want me to what? Pretend it never happened. Write you a check and play happy family. I want us to try. That's all. Just try. Jake taps on the glass door, mouthing, you okay? I nod, but I'm pretty sure I look like someone who's definitely not okay. Even if all of this is true, I say, gesturing at the folder, even if Mom did make it impossible for you to contact us, you still left. You still chose Sarah over us. You still started a whole new family while your first family was struggling to keep the lights on. I was 26 when I married your mother. I had no idea what I was doing, how to be a husband or a father. When things got hard, I ran instead of fighting for what mattered. His voice cracks again. But I'm here now. I'm asking for a chance to do better. 18 months of child support, I repeat. $7,200, plus interest. You pay Mom back every cent you owe her, and then maybe we can talk about chances. He's quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he looks up, his expression has shifted back to something harder. I can't do that timeline, Alexandra. Sarah's medical bills are due now. The twins need school clothes, and our mortgage payment is 3 weeks behind. He pauses. But I'm thinking there might be another way we can help each other out. The way he says it makes my stomach clench. What do you mean? David Chin mentioned that Cascade Solutions is looking for bridge funding while you search for a new acquisition partner. $200,000, invested at the right time, could be very valuable to a company in your position. The words hit me like ice water. Are you seriously trying to blackmail me into investing in my own company? I'm suggesting a mutually beneficial arrangement. Richard's voice has gone completely smooth now, the desperate father act dropped entirely. You help me help my family, and I help ensure your colleagues don't start asking uncomfortable questions about why you're sitting on millions while they're updating their resumes. Jake knocks on the glass again, more insistently this time. I can see other co-workers starting to notice the drama in conference room B, Emma from marketing doing that thing where she pretends to be getting coffee while obviously eavesdropping, Tom from DevOps straight up staring from his standing desk. You're threatening to sabotage my job. I'm offering to make an investment in a company I believe has tremendous potential, assuming it has the right financial backing to weather its current difficulties. He straightens his wrinkled shirt. David mentioned they're particularly interested in investors who understand the local tech ecosystem. My mind races through the implications. David Chen isn't just connected to my father's new family, he's been feeding them inside information about Cascade's business struggles. Information that could destroy my career if it gets out at the wrong time, or through the wrong channels. Sarah's brother violated about 15 different confidentiality agreements by discussing our internal business with you. Did he? Or did he simply mention in passing that he hopes the portfolio companies in his fund find creative solutions to their temporary setbacks? Richard pulls out a business card. Funny thing about venture capital, it's such a small world. Everyone talks to everyone. The business card reads, Archin Construction Solutions, with an address in Tacoma. Below his name, in smaller text, specializing in commercial development and strategic partnerships. You're not just asking for money, I realize. You're positioning yourself as some kind of business connection. I've been in construction for 25 years, Alexandra. I know every major developer between here and Portland. If Cascade is looking to pivot toward real estate tech or facilities management software, I could open doors that might otherwise stay closed. He taps the folder of returned letters. Consider it my way of finally providing for my daughter's future. The manipulation is so blatant it's almost impressive. He's managed to turn 16 years of abandonment into a networking opportunity, complete with emotional leverage and professional threats. My phone buzzes with a text from Jake, everything okay? Mike from legal is asking questions about the visitor log. Perfect. Now HR is going to get involved, which means I'll have to explain why a strange man was waiting for me at 8 a.m. and why we've been locked in a conference room for 45 minutes during a workday when everyone's already stressed about job security. Here's my counteroffer, I say, standing up and opening the conference room door. You're going to leave my building, you're going to delete my number from your phone, and you're going to tell Sarah's brother that if he shares any more information about Cascade with anyone outside his official capacity, I will personally ensure that every tech company in Seattle knows he can't be trusted with confidential information. Richard doesn't move. And if I don't? Then you'll find out exactly how much damage a software engineer with a trust fund and a 16-year grudge can do to someone's reputation. I smile, and it feels sharp. I've been watching your family's social media for years, Richard. I know where Sarah works, Peninsula Medical Center, charge nurse in pediatrics. I know the twins go to Cascade Christian Academy. I know you coach Dylan's soccer team on weekends and that Emma plays violin in the school orchestra. His face goes pale. You wouldn't. Try me. Jake appears in the doorway with Mike from legal right behind him. Perfect timing. Alex, we need to talk, Jake says carefully. Mr. Chen, Richard supplies automatically. I was just leaving. But he doesn't leave. Instead, he looks directly at Mike from legal and extends his hand. Richard Chen, Archin Construction. I've been discussing a potential strategic partnership with Alexandra regarding some upcoming development opportunities. I watch in horror as my personal family crisis transforms into a professional networking moment. Mike shakes his hand, looking confused but polite. I wasn't aware we were exploring construction partnerships, Mike says, glancing at me. Early stages, Richard says smoothly. Very preliminary discussions. But I think there's real potential for collaboration, especially given the current market conditions. He's doing it. Right in front of me, he's inserting himself into my workplace narrative as a legitimate business contact instead of the deadbeat father who showed up begging for money. And the worst part is, it's working. Actually, I say, my voice cutting through Richard's smooth networking performance, Mr. Chen was just explaining why he won't be able to move forward with any business relationships. Mike and Jake both turn to look at me, confusion written across their faces. Richard's confident expression flickers. You see, I continue, pulling out my phone, I've been doing some due diligence on Archin Construction, and there are some concerning issues with their financial transparency. I swipe to a screenshot I took earlier of Sarah's Instagram story from last week, a photo of past due notices spread across their kitchen counter with the caption, when it rains it pours. Pray for us folded hands hashtag financial struggles hashtag trust in God hashtag blessed anyway. For instance, they appear to be 3 months behind on their business loan payments, based on these documents that were posted publicly on social media. I show Mike the screen. As our legal counsel, I'm sure you'd agree that entering into partnerships with financially unstable contractors could expose Cascade to unnecessary liability. Richard's face goes from pale to red. Alexandra, that's not. Also, I interrupt, scrolling to another screenshot, there's this interesting post from Mrs. Chen about their temporary cash flow issues affecting their ability to pay subcontractors. Posted just yesterday, actually. Mike frowns, leaning closer to look at my phone. Is this accurate, Mr. Chen? Every construction company has temporary fluctuations in cash flow, Richard says, but his voice has lost its smooth confidence. That's completely normal in our industry. Normal, maybe. But probably not the kind of partner we want to take on right now, given our own situation. I look directly at Richard. I'm sure you understand. Business is business. Jake, who's been quietly watching this entire exchange like a tennis match, finally speaks up. Alex, maybe we should discuss any potential partnerships through official channels. You know, bring it to the Thursday stakeholder meeting. Oh, there won't be any partnerships, I say, still staring at Richard. Mr. Chen was just leaving. Permanently. The silence stretches long enough to become uncomfortable. Through the glass walls, I can see more coworkers pretending not to watch us. Emma from marketing has given up all pretense and is just openly staring now. Richard straightens his wrinkled shirt and picks up his manila folder. You know, Alexandra, I think you're making a mistake. Sometimes the best opportunities come from unexpected places. And sometimes, I reply, the biggest threats come from people who think you owe them something just because they share your DNA. Mike's eyebrows shoot up. Jake makes a small, oh, sound. The family connection is out now, which means by lunch it'll be all over the office that Alex from the platform team had some kind of confrontation with her estranged father in conference room B. Richard nods slowly, like he's filing away this information for later use. Well, then. I guess we understand each other. Crystal clear. He turns to Mike and Jake, his expression shifting back to professional courtesy. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure meeting you. I hope Cascade weathers its current challenges successfully. The way he says, current challenges, makes it sound like a threat, like he knows more about our internal struggles than he should. Which, thanks to Sarah's brother, he probably does. After he leaves, Jake and Mike both turn to me with identical expressions of concern mixed with curiosity. So, Jake says carefully, that was your dad. That was the sperm donor, I correct. And he won't be back. But even as I say it, I'm not sure I believe it. Richard left too easily, accepted defeat too gracefully. In 16 years of watching his social media presence, I've learned that he doesn't give up on things he wants without a fight. And apparently, what he wants now is my inheritance. Mike and I spend the next hour in his office going over what just happened. He's concerned about the security implications of Richard having inside information about our business, but there's not much we can do legally unless David Chen actually violates his fiduciary duties in writing. Family drama aside, Mike says, closing his laptop, you should probably give Jake a heads up about the inheritance situation before the rumor mill gets completely out of control. He's right. By the time I get back to my desk, I can already feel the sideways glances. Emma waves me over to the coffee station with barely concealed excitement. So, she says, lowering her voice conspiratorially, was that really your dad? Because Tom heard Mike mention something about DNA, and now everyone's curious about the mysterious family business meeting. It was nothing, I lie. Just some old family friend trying to pitch us his construction company. Right. Emma nods knowingly. And that's why you looked like you'd seen a ghost when security called upstairs. Before I can deflect further, my phone rings. Unknown number with a 253 area code, Tacoma. My stomach drops. I need to take this, I tell Emma, walking back toward the conference rooms. Hello, Alexandra. It's Richard, and he sounds different. Calmer. More confident. I wanted to thank you for the productive meeting this morning. I thought we agreed you wouldn't contact me again. I agreed to leave your building. I'm currently in the parking garage, so technically I'm keeping my word. I can hear the smile in his voice. I've been making some calls during the drive down here, and I think you'll find the next few days very interesting. Through the office windows, I can see the parking garage. There's a blue sedan on level 2 that wasn't there this morning. What did you do? Nothing illegal, I assure you. But you know, Seattle really is a small town when it comes to business. Your grandmother Margaret had quite a few friends in the development community before she passed. They remember her fondly. My hands start shaking. Grandma Margaret was connected to half the commercial real estate in Bellevue before she retired. If Richard's been using her name, trading on those old relationships. I had lunch with Jim Morrison from Pacific Northwest Development Group. Lovely man. We got to talking about his daughter Jessica, who apparently applied for a position at Cascade last year but didn't get an interview. Richard pauses. Jim was surprised to learn that Margaret's granddaughter works there. He seemed very interested in discussing potential collaboration opportunities. You son of a bitch. Now. Language, Alexandra. I'm simply networking, just like you suggested. Building relationships in a local business community. His voice turns sharper. Jim mentioned that PNWDG has been considering whether to move forward with their planned partnership with Cascade. Apparently there were some concerns about your company's long-term stability. I sink into the nearest chair. Pacific Northwest Development Group isn't just any client, they're our biggest potential contract. The deal that would save us from having to do another round of layoffs. Jim Morrison has been in negotiations with our business development team for 3 months. What do you want? What I've always wanted. A relationship with my daughter. And perhaps some financial assistance to help my family through a difficult time. Richard's voice goes soft, almost paternal. $200,000, Alexandra. That's all. A fraction of what you inherited, but enough to get Sarah's treatments covered and keep the twins in their school. And if I say no? Then I suppose Jim Morrison will have to make his partnership decisions based on incomplete information about Cascade's ownership structure and financial resources. He seemed very concerned about investing in a company that might not have the capital reserves to weather unexpected challenges. The threat is crystal clear. Richard will torpedo the PNWDG deal unless I pay him off. And without that contract, Cascade will have to cut at least a third of our staff, including potentially me. I need time to think. Of course. Take all the time you need. He pauses. Jim and I are having dinner tomorrow night to discuss some construction opportunities for his upcoming Redmond project. I'm sure your name will come up in conversation. The line goes dead. I sit in the empty conference room, staring at my phone and trying to process what just happened. In the span of 2 hours, my estranged father has gone from desperate supplicant to holding my career hostage. And the worst part is, I handed him the ammunition by revealing how much the inheritance was worth. My laptop chimes with a calendar reminder, team stand up, overdue. Right. Normal life. I still have a job to do, at least for now. But as I walk back to my desk, I can't shake the image of Richard sitting in that blue sedan, making phone calls to destroy everything I built unless I pay him to stop. The abandoned child in me wants to cave, to write the check and make this nightmare disappear. The adult I've become wants to fight back. The rest of my Tuesday passes in a haze of pretending everything is normal while my brain runs worst-case scenarios on repeat. I sit through the delayed stand-up meeting, nod at appropriate intervals during Jake's presentation about sprint velocity, and even manage to fix a critical bug in our authentication service. But underneath it all, I'm calculating exactly how much damage Richard can do with a single dinner conversation. By 6 p.m., most of the office has cleared out. I'm still at my desk, ostensibly working on code reviews but actually diving deep into Pacific Northwest Development Group's corporate structure. Jim Morrison isn't just some random developer, he's the founder and CEO of a company that's been building half of Bellevue's skyline for the past decade. If he pulls out of our partnership talks, word will spread through the entire Seattle tech ecosystem within a week. You're staying late. Jake appears at my cubicle with 2 cups of coffee and that expression he gets when he's about to have a management conversation with someone on the team. Just trying to catch up after this morning's interruption. About that. He settles into the empty chair next to my desk. Mike filled me in on some of the details. Family stuff is complicated, but if it's affecting your work environment, we need to address it. I almost laugh. If only he knew that my family stuff is currently threatening to destroy our biggest client relationship. It won't happen again, I tell him, which is either completely true or a complete lie, depending on how tomorrow night's dinner goes. Alex, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Jake leans forward, lowering his voice. Are you planning to leave Cascade? The question catches me off guard. What? No. Why would you think that? Because Emma mentioned overhearing something about a large inheritance, and then your father shows up talking about strategic partnerships, and now you're working late reviewing PNWDG's corporate filings. He gestures at my laptop screen, where I've been scrolling through SEC documents for the past hour. It feels like you're either planning your exit strategy or you know something the rest of us don't. I close the laptop, suddenly aware of how this must look from the outside. Star developer inherits millions, mysterious family meeting, after-hours research into our biggest client. The dots connect themselves. I'm not leaving, I say firmly. And I'm definitely not planning anything that would hurt the team. Good. Because honestly, if we lose the Morrison deal on top of everything else. Jake trails off, running his hand through his hair. Let's just say it would be really bad timing for any kind of personnel changes. After he leaves, I sit alone in the darkening office and face the reality of my situation. Richard isn't just threatening my career, he's threatening my entire team's livelihoods. 23 people who trust me, who work alongside me every day, who have no idea that their jobs might depend on whether I'm willing to pay off my deadbeat father. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Thought you might want to see this before tomorrow night. Dad. The attached image makes my blood freeze. It's a screenshot of an email thread between Jim Morrison and someone with the address reken.construction@gmail.com. The subject line reads, Cascade Solutions, confidential background information. I can only see the first few lines of Richard's message. Jim, as promised, here's what I was able to find out about the ownership situation at Cascade. As Margaret Chen's heir, my daughter Alexandra controls significantly more liquid capital than their SEC filings suggest, which raises questions about why they're claiming financial hardship in partnership negotiations. The screenshot cuts off there, but I don't need to see the rest. Richard is positioning me as some kind of secret wealthy stakeholder who's been hiding assets from potential partners. Even if it's not technically illegal, it makes Cascade look dishonest and makes me look like I've been manipulating our business relationships. My hands are shaking as I call the number back. I was hoping you'd see that tonight, Richard says by way of greeting. Gives us both time to think about our next conversation. Delete that email. Right now. I'm afraid it's already sent, sweetheart. But don't worry, Jim's a reasonable man. I'm sure tomorrow night's dinner will clear up any misunderstandings about your role in Cascade's financial situation. The casual endearment, sweetheart, hits like a slap. He used to call me that when I was little, back when I thought he was the smartest, strongest person in the world. How much do you want? The words taste like ash. We already discussed this. 200,000. A small price to pay for family harmony and professional stability. And then what? You disappear again for another 16 years. Then we start rebuilding our relationship like adults. His voice softens, taking on that fake paternal tone again. I know you're angry, Alexandra. You have every right to be. But holding on to that anger is only hurting you now. Don't. I stand up, pacing to the office windows. The parking garage is too dark to see if his car is still there. Don't you dare try to therapize me. You lost that right when you chose your second family over your first one. I chose survival over a marriage that was already dead. Your mother and I were toxic together, you were old enough to see the fighting, the resentment. Sarah gave me a chance to be a better man. Sarah gave you a chance to start over with someone who didn't know what kind of man you really were. The silence stretches long enough that I think he might have hung up. Then, you're right. That's exactly what she gave me. And you know what? It worked. I've been a good husband to Sarah, a good father to the twins. I coach Little League, I go to school plays, I haven't missed a birthday or a Christmas in 14 years. Each word is designed to cut, and they do. He's describing the father I needed him to be, the father Michael needed him to be. The father he was capable of being all along, just not for us. So why come back now? Why risk your perfect second chance? Because Sarah is sick, and my kids need their father to take care of their mother. Because sometimes being a good man means swallowing your pride and asking for help from people who have every reason to say no. I laugh, sharp and bitter. You're not asking for help. You're extorting me. I'm giving you an opportunity to be generous. To show that you're bigger than the pain I caused. Richard's voice hardens. But if you want to frame it as extortion, that's your choice. Either way, the outcome is the same. Through the office windows, I can see the city lights starting to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Somewhere out there, Jim Morrison is probably reading Richard's email, forming opinions about my integrity and Cascade's transparency. Tomorrow night, they'll sit down for dinner and discuss whether a company led by people who hide their financial resources can be trusted with a multi-million-dollar development project. I'll need to see proof, I hear myself saying. Medical bills, mortgage statements, school tuition receipts. If I'm paying for Sarah's treatment and the twins' education, I want documentation. Of course. I'll have everything ready by tomorrow night. And I want it in writing that this is a one-time payment. No more contact, no more family relationship, no more business networking using Grandma Margaret's connections. Alexandra, I hope that once we get past this financial crisis, you might feel differently about. In writing, Richard. Legal documentation that makes it clear this transaction ends our relationship permanently. He's quiet for a moment. If that's really what you want. It's what I've wanted for 16 years. After I hang up, I sit in the empty office and try to process the fact that I just agreed to pay my father $200,000 to leave me alone. It feels like losing and winning at the same time, losing because he's getting what he came for, winning because he'll finally be gone for good. My laptop chimes with a new email notification. The sender is David Chen at Cascade Ventures, and the subject line makes my stomach drop, regarding recent inquiries about Cascade Solutions. This day just keeps getting worse. The email from David Chen is worse than I imagined. Dear Ms. Chen. I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing to address some concerning inquiries I received today regarding Cascade Solutions' financial stability and ownership structure. A gentleman claiming to be your father contacted my office this afternoon with questions about our fund's relationship with your company. He seemed to possess detailed knowledge of internal matters that should not be public information, including specifics about the failed Meridian acquisition and current bridge funding discussions. I want to assure you that neither I nor anyone at Cascade Ventures has disclosed confidential information inappropriately. However, I'm obligated to report to our limited partners when potential security breaches occur that might affect portfolio companies. I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss this matter at your earliest convenience. Best regards. David Chen. Managing Partner, Cascade Ventures. I read it 3 times, each pass making my situation clearer and more catastrophic. David Chen isn't just concerned about Richard's inquiries, he's actively investigating whether there's been a security breach. And if he reports this to the limited partners who fund his venture capital firm, it won't matter whether Richard actually has inside information or not. The perception of compromised confidentiality will be enough to tank any future funding discussions. My phone rings. Jake's name on the screen. Alex, we need to talk. Now. Are you still at the office? Conference room A, I tell him. And bring Mike. 10 minutes later, we're huddled around my laptop reading David Chen's email while Jake paces behind us muttering increasingly creative profanity. So let me get this straight, Mike says, adjusting his glasses. Your estranged father somehow obtained confidential information about our business struggles, is using that information to threaten our biggest potential client relationship, and now our primary venture capital contact thinks we have a security leak. That's about the size of it. And this morning you said he was just asking for money for his sick wife. Jake stops pacing long enough to stare at me. Alex, this isn't family drama anymore. This is corporate sabotage. He's right, but the legal reality is more complicated than Jake realizes. Richard hasn't actually done anything prosecutable, he's just exploiting personal connections and public information in ways that happen to destroy my life. I have a plan, I say, which is a lie, but I need them to stop looking at me like I'm a security threat. Give me until Thursday morning to resolve this. Thursday morning. Jake's voice cracks. Alex, Jim Morrison could pull out of negotiations any minute. If PNWDG walks because they think we're hiding financial irregularities. They won't walk, I interrupt. Because I'm going to make sure Richard never speaks to Jim Morrison again. Mike and Jake exchange glances. I can practically see them debating whether I'm having some kind of breakdown that requires HR intervention. How exactly are you planning to do that? Mike asks carefully. By giving Richard what he thinks he wants, I say, pulling up a new browser window. But not the way he expects to get it. For the next hour, while Mike researches restraining order procedures and Jake stress emails our business development team, I start building something I've never built before, a comprehensive digital profile of my father's new life. Social media accounts, business registrations, property records, employment history, financial filings, everything Richard Chen has put online in the past 16 years, I systematically catalog and cross-reference. By the time the office cleaning crew arrives, I have a clearer picture of his actual situation than he probably realizes exists. The medical bills are real, Sarah's lupus treatment is expensive even with insurance. But the mortgage isn't 3 weeks behind, it's current as of last month according to King County records. The construction business isn't failing, it's just not growing fast enough to support the lifestyle they've gotten used to. Richard doesn't need $200,000 to survive. He needs it to avoid downsizing from the 4-bedroom house to something more realistic. To keep the twins in private school instead of moving them to public education. To maintain the image of success that his second marriage was built on. Find what you were looking for. Jake asks, peering over my shoulder at the spreadsheet of financial data I've compiled. Better, I tell him, saving the file to an encrypted folder. I found exactly what I'm going to use to end this. The next morning, I'm waiting in the lobby of Pacific Northwest Development Group at exactly 7:30 a.m. with a manila folder of my own and a kind of focused rage that comes from a sleepless night spent planning revenge. Jim Morrison's assistant, a efficient-looking woman named Patricia, escorts me to his corner office overlooking the Bellevue skyline. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I can see the construction cranes marking his latest projects, the mixed-use development on 108th, the luxury condos going up near the transit center. Ms. Chen, Jim stands up from behind a desk that probably costs more than most people's cars. He's older than I expected, maybe early 60s, with the kind of silver hair that suggests distinguished success rather than just age. I have to say, I was surprised by your call last night. I'm sure you were. I settle into the chair across from his desk without waiting to be invited. Especially after my father's interesting email yesterday. His expression shifts, becoming more guarded. Yes, that was unexpected correspondence. I wasn't aware that Margaret Chen's granddaughter worked at Cascade Solutions. Most people aren't. I use my mother's maiden name professionally. I open my folder and slide a document across his desk. This is a certified copy of my grandmother's will, showing the inheritance details my father referenced in his email. Jim scans the document, his eyebrows rising as he reaches the asset valuations. $3.2 million is certainly significant. It is. What's more significant is that Richard Chen, who hasn't spoken to me in 16 years, somehow felt entitled to discuss my personal finances with my company's potential business partners. I lean forward slightly. I'm curious, Mr. Morrison. Did he mention during your conversation yesterday that he abandoned his family when I was 12 years old? The question clearly catches him off guard. No. He presented himself as someone reconnecting with family after your grandmother's recent passing. Reconnecting. I pull out my phone and show him a screenshot of Richard's Facebook page from 2019, the family vacation photos from Europe, everyone in matching Christmas sweaters except for two conspicuously absent children. Here's him reconnecting with his real family in Barcelona. Notice anyone missing from the photos? Jim studies the screen with the careful attention of someone who's built a career on reading people and situations. Ms. Chen, I appreciate you coming to clarify this situation, but I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. I'm asking you to understand that Richard Chen has no legitimate connection to Cascade Solutions, no relevant business expertise, and no authority to speak about my role in the company's financial structure. I retrieve another document from my folder. This is a formal statement from our legal counsel confirming that I have no ownership stake in Cascade beyond my employment equity, and that my personal inheritance has no bearing on the company's operational budget or partnership decisions. He reads Mike's carefully worded letter with the attention it deserves. This addresses my concerns about financial transparency. Good. Now I need you to understand something else. I pull up another screenshot, this one showing Richard's construction company's Better Business Bureau rating. Archin Construction has 17 unresolved complaints in the past 2 years, mostly related to incomplete work and payment disputes with subcontractors. Jim's expression hardens as he recognizes names on the complaint list. Apparently some of them are companies he's worked with on other projects. That's unfortunate, he says diplomatically. What's more unfortunate is that he's using my grandmother's reputation in the development community to open doors that should stay closed. I slide across a printed email thread I found in Sarah's Facebook messages, Richard discussing potential collaborations with 3 different development firms, all of which mention Margaret Chen's legacy projects. He's been networking using her name for months, apparently building towards some kind of business expansion. And you believe his contact with me was part of this? I believe his contact with you was specifically designed to sabotage my career unless I agreed to fund his business expansion. I meet his eyes directly. $200,000, to be exact. The amount he asked for yesterday morning when he showed up at my office. The silence that follows stretches long enough for me to hear the construction noise from the building site across the street. Jim Morrison has spent 4 decades in Seattle development. He's seen every kind of family drama, business dispute, and financial manipulation the industry can produce. Ms. Chen, he says finally, are you asking me to cancel tonight's dinner with your father? I'm asking you to make that decision based on complete information about who you're dealing with. I stand up, leaving my folder of documentation on his desk. Richard Chen is a moderately successful contractor with cash flow problems and a history of abandoning inconvenient relationships when they stop serving his interests. If you think that's someone worth doing business with, that's entirely your choice. As I reach the door, he speaks again. For what it's worth, your grandmother was one of the finest people I worked with in 30 years of development projects. Margaret had integrity. Thank you. She taught me that integrity isn't something you can inherit, you have to earn it every day. I pause with my hand on the door handle. I hope tonight's dinner is enlightening. By the time I get back to Cascade's office, I have 3 missed calls from Richard and a text message that makes my stomach clench. Spoke with Jim this morning. Interesting conversation. We should talk before tonight. 2 p.m., Starbucks on Pine Street. Come alone. He knows. Somehow he already knows I went to see Jim Morrison ahead of him. I'm 20 minutes late to the coffee shop on purpose, hoping to throw off whatever power play Richard has planned. But when I walk in, he's sitting at a corner table looking more relaxed than someone whose extortion scheme just got exposed should look. You're predictable, Alexandra, he says without looking up from his phone. Just like your mother. Always thinking you're the smartest person in the room. I order a black coffee and sit across from him, noting that he's wearing a different shirt today, newer, more expensive. Either he went shopping with money he claims not to have, or this whole struggling family man image is more carefully constructed than I realized. Jim Morrison called off dinner, I say, watching his face for a reaction. Did he? Richard smiles, and it's not the expression of someone who just lost their leverage. How interesting. He called me around 10:30 to reschedule for next week. Something about wanting to include a few more people in the conversation. The coffee suddenly tastes bitter. What people? David Chen from Cascade Ventures, 4-1. Apparently your little morning visit raised some questions about the relationship between our families and the flow of information between my household and his investment fund. Richard leans back in his chair. Jim's concerned about potential conflicts of interest that might affect his partnership decisions. I feel the blood drain from my face. By trying to protect Cascade from Richard's manipulation, I've created a bigger problem. Now Jim Morrison thinks there's some kind of suspicious connection between his VC partner and our company through Richard's marriage to Sarah. There is no conflict of interest. Sarah's brother has never discussed Cascade's business with your family. Hasn't he? Richard pulls out his phone and scrolls to what looks like a text message thread. Sarah mentioned to David that I was reconnecting with my successful daughter in the tech industry. David mentioned that he knew about a promising startup founded by someone named Chen. Sarah put 2 and 2 together and realized you must be working at one of David's portfolio companies. He shows me the screen. It's a family group text from 3 weeks ago, long before Richard showed up at my office. Sarah asking David about tech companies with Chen employees, David responding with Cascade's name and a casual mention that the Alexandra Chen on their platform team is supposed to be brilliant. So David did discuss our company with your family. In passing. Family dinner conversation. The kind of innocent comment that happens 1,000 times a week in Seattle tech circles. Richard puts his phone away. But now that Jim Morrison is aware of the connection, he's asking harder questions. Like whether David's investment decisions might be influenced by family relationships. Whether Cascade's partnership negotiations have been compromised by insider information. The implications hit me like a freight train. If Jim Morrison pulls out of our deal because he thinks there's been impropriety between our company and our VC fund, it won't matter that the insider information was completely innocent. The perception of conflict will be enough to destroy both relationships. What do you want? I ask, already knowing the answer has changed. Same thing I've always wanted. $200,000 and a fresh start with my daughter. Richard's voice softens into that fake paternal tone again. But now I also need you to help me explain to Jim and David that our family reconnection has nothing to do with anyone's business interests. That you reached out to me after inheriting Margaret's money because you wanted to rebuild our relationship. That's a lie. It's a story that protects everyone involved. You get to keep your job and your company's reputation intact. David doesn't get investigated for ethics violations. Jim doesn't have to worry about conflicted partnerships. Richard spreads his hands. Everyone wins. Except for the part where I pay you $200,000 to lie about why you came back into my life. Think of it as paying for the privilege of controlling the narrative. The meeting with Richard leaves me feeling like I've been turned inside out. By the time I get back to the office, my hands are shaking and I can barely focus on my code. Every solution I try to implement creates 3 new problems, just like dealing with my father. At 4:30 p.m., Jake appears at my desk with that grim expression he gets when he's about to deliver bad news. David Chen wants a video call with our entire leadership team tomorrow at 9 a.m., he says quietly. Mike thinks it's about the Jim Morrison situation, but David's assistant was pretty cryptic about the agenda. I close my laptop screen so he can't see the 17 browser tabs I have open researching corporate ethics violations and conflict of interest policies. Did David say anything specific? Just that there have been some concerning developments regarding information security and he needs to discuss them with stakeholders before moving forward with any new funding discussions. Jake sits on the edge of my desk. Alex, I need to ask you directly, is there something you're not telling us about your family situation? The question hangs in the air between us. Through the office windows, I can see the late afternoon light reflecting off the buildings downtown, normal people finishing normal workdays without having to choose between paying off their estranged fathers or watching their careers implode. My father is trying to extort money from me, I say finally. And he's using information about Cascade to do it. Jake's eyebrows shoot up. What kind of information? The kind that makes us look like we've been hiding financial resources from potential partners. I open my laptop and show him the email thread Richard sent to Jim Morrison. He's positioning my inheritance as proof that Cascade has been dishonest about our funding needs. Jake reads the email twice, his expression getting darker each time. This is actually pretty damaging, Alex. Even if it's not technically true, it makes us look like we've been manipulating partnership negotiations. I know. And now David Chen thinks there might be a connection between his investment fund and your family that could compromise his fiduciary duties. Jake runs his hand through his hair. Jesus, Alex. How did this get so complicated so fast? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Thought you should see this before tomorrow's meeting. Sarah. The attached screenshot makes my blood freeze. It's a Facebook post from Sarah's account, posted 20 minutes ago. Feeling so blessed today. My amazing husband Richard is working on an incredible business opportunity that could change everything for our family. Sometimes God puts people in your path at exactly the right moment. Praying for wisdom and guidance as we navigate this exciting new chapter. Folded hand sparkles #blessed #family first #trust the process. Below the text are 2 photos, one of Richard in a suit I've never seen before, standing outside Pacific Northwest Development Group's building, and another of what looks like a bank check made out to Archon Construction Solutions for $50,000. I show Jake the screenshot. He's already spending money he doesn't have. Where did he get $50,000? Probably a business loan using the PNWDG meeting as collateral. I scroll through Sarah's other recent posts, looking for more clues. Or he borrowed against their house. Jake stares at the photos. Alex, this guy isn't just extorting you. He's running some kind of long-term con using your grandmother's connections and your company's reputation as leverage. He's right. Richard didn't just wake up last week and decide to reconnect with his abandoned daughter. He's been building toward this for months, maybe longer. The casual family dinner conversation with David Chen, the networking calls using Margaret's name, the carefully timed approach right after my inheritance became public record, it's all been orchestrated. I need to see Sarah, I say, standing up and grabbing my jacket. Alex, that sounds like a terrible idea. Terrible ideas are the only kind I have left. The drive to Tacoma takes 45 minutes in rush hour traffic, which gives me plenty of time to rehearse what I'm going to say to the woman my father left us for. By the time I pull into the driveway of their 4-bedroom colonial on a tree-lined street that screams upper-middle-class aspirations, I've run through about 12 different conversation scenarios. None of them prepared me for the teenage boy who answers the door. He has Richard's dark hair and narrow build, but his eyes are lighter, Sarah's eyes, I assume. This is Dylan, one of the twins I've been watching grow up through social media posts for the past 14 years. Hi, he says, looking confused. Are you here about the construction estimate? I'm here to see Sarah. I'm Alex Chen. His expression shifts to recognition, then something that might be excitement. Oh my God, you're our sister. Mom, Dad's other daughter is here. Sister. The word hits me like a physical blow. In all my angry fantasizing about confronting Richard's new family, I never considered that the twins might think of me as family too. Sarah appears behind Dylan, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. She's smaller than I expected, probably barely 5'4", with strawberry blonde hair and the kind of tired eyes that come from chronic illness. She's wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater that can't quite hide how thin she's gotten. Alex, she says, and her voice is softer than I imagined. Richard said you might come by. Did he? I step inside without being invited, taking in the lived-in chaos of their home, backpacks by the door, soccer cleats on the entryway bench, the smell of something burning in the kitchen. What else did he tell you? Sarah glances nervously at Dylan, who's still staring at me with undisguised curiosity. Dylan, honey, can you go finish your homework? And tell Emma to stay upstairs for a few minutes. But Mom, this is so cool. Dad's been talking about Alex forever, and now she's actually here. Dylan turns to me with the kind of enthusiasm that only teenagers can muster. Is it true you're like some kind of computer genius? Dad said you work for this super important tech company and you're really successful. The hero worship in his voice makes my stomach turn. Richard's been spinning stories about his relationship with me to his new kids, painting himself as the proud father watching his daughter's career from afar. Dylan, please, Sarah says more firmly. Upstairs. Now. After he reluctantly disappears, Sarah leads me into their kitchen, where something that might have been dinner is indeed burning on the stove. She turns off the burner and opens a window, moving with the careful economy of someone managing chronic pain. You look angry, she observes, settling into a chair at their breakfast table. I am angry. Your husband showed up at my office yesterday demanding $200,000, and now he's posting about business opportunities he doesn't have while potentially destroying my career. I pull out my phone and show her the Facebook post. Did you know he borrowed $50,000 based on a meeting that isn't happening anymore? Sarah's face goes pale as she reads her own post. Richard said the meeting went well. He said Mr. Morrison was interested in partnering with him on some development projects. Jim Morrison canceled their dinner. Richard lied to you. No, he wouldn't. She trails off, staring at the check in the photo. Where did this money come from? You tell me. It's your Facebook post. Sarah pulls out her own phone, scrolling through what looks like their joint banking app. Her hand starts shaking as she finds what she's looking for. He took a cash advance on our home equity line. $50,000, yesterday afternoon. After I told Jim Morrison the truth about what Richard was trying to do. What truth? Sarah's voice is getting smaller, more frightened. I sit across from her at the table where Richard probably helps the twins with their homework, where they eat family dinners and plan weekend activities and live the normal family life he couldn't be bothered to maintain with Michael and me. The truth that he abandoned his first family 16 years ago and only came back when he found out I inherited money. The truth that he's been using my dead grandmother's reputation to network his way into business relationships he hasn't earned. The truth that he's extorting me to pay for his second family's lifestyle. I lean forward, studying her face. What did he tell you about why he left us? Sarah looks down at her hands, which are twisted together in her lap. He said the marriage was over. That your mother was bitter and angry, that she turned you kids against him. He said he tried to maintain a relationship, but she made it impossible. Did he show you the letters he supposedly sent? The returned birthday cards? Some of them. A folder full of photocopies. She looks up at me with something that might be hope. Are you saying they weren't real? I'm saying I don't know. But I do know that 16 years is a long time to not try hard enough. I pull up Richard's construction company website on my phone. I also know that your husband has been planning this approach for months. The casual conversation with your brother about my company, the networking calls using Margaret Chen's name, the perfectly timed visit right after my inheritance became public record. Sarah stares at the website, reading through testimonials and project descriptions. He never mentioned knowing anyone named Margaret Chen. Because he didn't want you asking questions about why his relationship with his mother-in-law ended the same time his relationship with his children did. I close my phone. Sarah, I need you to understand something. Richard isn't just lying to me. He's been lying to you too. The sound of footsteps on the stairs interrupts us. A girl who must be Emma appears in the kitchen doorway. She has Sarah's coloring but Richard's stubborn chin, and she's staring at me with undisguised hostility. Mom, Dylan told me Dad's other daughter is here. Emma crosses her arms, looking much older than 14. Are you the one who's been refusing to help with Mom's medical bills? The question hits like a slap. Of course that's how Richard would frame it, the wealthy daughter who won't help her sick stepmother, the selfish adult child who holds grudges while her family suffers. Emma, go back upstairs, Sarah says weakly. No. I want to know why she gets to inherit millions of dollars while you have to ration your lupus medication because we can't afford the copays. Emma's voice is getting louder, angrier. Dad said she works at some fancy tech company and lives in an expensive apartment, but she won't even help pay for your treatments. I look at this fierce, loyal girl defending her mother against someone she's been taught to see as a threat, and I understand exactly how Richard has been manipulating this entire family. He's not just extorting me, he's been preparing his wife and children to blame me if his plan fails. Emma, I say carefully, what else has your father told you about me? Emma, I say carefully, what else has your father told you about me? That you abandoned the family too. That when Grandma Margaret left you all that money, you could have reached out, could have helped, but you chose to stay angry instead. Emma's voice cracks slightly. He said you blame him for things that happened when you were just a kid, but now you're an adult and you should act like one. The manipulation is so complete, so perfectly crafted, that I almost admire Richard's skill. He's managed to rewrite 16 years of history so that I'm the villain in his children's story. Sarah, I say, not taking my eyes off Emma, show me the medical bills. What? The lupus treatments that are bankrupting your family. The ones I'm supposedly refusing to help with. Show me the bills. Sarah glances nervously between me and her daughter. I don't think that's. Mom, show her, Emma says fiercely. Show her how much you're suffering while she sits on millions of dollars. Sarah disappears into another room and returns with a manila folder, not unlike the one Richard brought to my office yesterday. She spreads the papers across the kitchen table, insurance statements, pharmacy receipts, specialist copays. I scan through them quickly, adding numbers in my head. This is about $800 a month in out-of-pocket costs. Try $1,200, Emma snaps. The insurance doesn't cover everything. Even if it's $1,200 a month, that's less than $15,000 a year. I look up at Sarah. Your husband is demanding $200,000 from me to cover medical bills that cost less than $15,000 annually. The silence that follows is broken only by the sound of the kitchen window rattling in the wind. The bills add up, Sarah says weakly. And there are other expenses. Like the Lexus. The European vacation. The private school tuition. I pull out my phone and start scrolling through Sarah's social media posts from the past year. The boat Richard bought in March. The kitchen remodel you documented in 40 Instagram stories. Emma's confidence wavers as she watches me swipe through image after image of her family's comfortable lifestyle. I've been watching your family for years, I continue, addressing both of them now. Not because I wanted to reconnect, but because I needed to understand what my father chose over us. And what I learned is that Richard Chen is very good at making people believe they need him more than they actually do. Sarah's phone buzzes with a text notification. She glances at it and goes completely white. What is it? Emma asks. With shaking hands, Sarah shows us the message from Richard: Jim Morrison meeting postponed indefinitely. There may have been some miscommunication about the scope of our partnership. Don't worry about dinner, staying late to work through some business issues. Love you both. He's lying again, I say gently. There is no partnership. Jim Morrison canceled their meeting because I told him the truth about what Richard was trying to do. Emma sinks into a chair, looking suddenly much younger than 14. Dad said this business deal would solve everything. That we wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. Emma, sweetheart, Sarah says, reaching for her daughter's hand, we don't actually worry about money. We live in a nice house, you go to a good school, we take vacations. But Dad always talks about how expensive everything is. How much my violin lessons cost, how much Dylan's soccer equipment costs, how we might have to make sacrifices. Emma's voice breaks. I thought we were poor. And there it is. Richard's final manipulation revealed. He's been making his own family feel guilty for their normal middle-class expenses while demanding hundreds of thousands from his abandoned daughter to maintain a lifestyle they already have. I pull out my phone and call Richard's number. He answers on the first ring. Alexandra, I was hoping you'd. I'm sitting in your kitchen with Sarah and Emma, I interrupt. And we've been having a very interesting conversation about medical bills and family finances. The silence stretches long enough that I think he might have hung up. Put me on speaker, he says finally. I comply, setting the phone on the table between the three of us. Sarah, sweetheart, let me explain, Richard begins. Explain what? Sarah's voice is steadier than I expected. Explain why you borrowed $50,000 without telling me. Explain why you've been making our children feel guilty about violin lessons while demanding $200,000 from your daughter. Explain why you lied about the Morrison meeting. I was trying to protect you. To provide for our family. By extorting your other daughter. Emma's voice is small but clear. Dad, Alex showed us her company's website. She's not some millionaire executive. She's a software engineer who inherited money when her grandmother died. Money that has nothing to do with us. Emma, you don't understand. I understand that I have a half-sister I've never met because you taught me to resent her for things that weren't her fault. Emma looks at me across the table. Alex, I'm sorry. We all are. Sarah nods, tears running down her cheeks. Richard, I want you to come home. Now. We need to talk about a lot of things, and we need to do it as a family. Sarah, if you just let me explain. No more explaining. No more business deals. No more lies. Sarah's voice hardens. And no more contact with Alex unless it's to apologize for what you've put her through. She hangs up the phone. Emma wipes her eyes on her sleeve and looks at me with something that might be hope. Does this mean we can actually be sisters now? Like, real sisters? For the first time in 16 years, I think about what it might mean to have family that isn't defined by abandonment and resentment. To have relationships that weren't destroyed before they had a chance to begin. I'd like that, I tell her. But it's going to take time. And it has to happen without your father manipulating any of us. Deal, Emma says immediately. Sarah nods, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry for all of it. As I drive back to Seattle, my phone buzzes with messages. Jake texting that David Chen postponed tomorrow's meeting indefinitely. My mother calling to check in, somehow she always knows when I'm having a crisis. Michael sending a meme about awkward family dinners that's probably more accurate than he realizes. But the message that matters most comes from Sarah an hour after I left their house. Richard came home. We talked. He's agreed to get counseling and make amends for the damage he's caused. Emma and Dylan would love to meet their Uncle Michael sometime, if that's okay with you. I think about 16-year-old grudges and the weight of carrying anger that serves no purpose anymore. I think about Emma's fierce loyalty and Dylan's enthusiasm and Sarah's quiet strength in finally standing up to the man who almost destroyed 2 families with his selfishness. Family helps family. But real family doesn't extort each other or manipulate children or hold relationships hostage for money. Real family shows up, tells the truth, and does the work of rebuilding what was broken. For the first time since Richard walked into my office 2 days ago, I think we might actually have a chance at that.